Hey guys, it's Saga from TecworkZ, and in this video, let us check out the cameras on the OnePlus Nord. OnePlus makes very bold claim on their website, saying that if you don't like the cameras, we have really messed up. Let us go ahead and test this claim. I have over 75 image and video samples from the OnePlus Nord to show you guys. So without wasting any time, let us check out the cameras that we are working with. OnePlus Nord gets 6 cameras in total, 2 at the front and 4 on its back. Primary camera at the back gets a 48MP Sony IMX586 sensor with f1.75 aperture, optical image stabilization and 6-element lens. OnePlus wants to brag about it and let us know that this is the same primary camera as the OnePlus 8. But what they are not telling you is that it's the same camera that they used on the OnePlus 7T and the OnePlus 7. So it is well over a year old. And while OnePlus has used it in their flagship phones in the past, we have seen countless other manufacturers use it in their budget phones like Honor View 20, Redmi K20 Pro, Realme 5 Pro, Realme X, Xiaomi Mi A3 and so on. So let's wait till we look at the image samples before we get all excited about it. Next camera gets an 8MP sensor with f2.25 aperture and an ultra-wide angle lens. Then there is a 5MP depth sensor with f2.4 aperture and a 2MP macro sensor again with f2.4 aperture. I think the last two cameras are completely useless. No one wants a measly 2MP macro camera, and the edge detection for portrait shots can just easily be achieved via software. OnePlus just wanted to include these cameras just that they can say that the Nord has a quad camera setup on its back. There are two cameras at the front. Main one finally gets an upgraded 32MP Sony IMX616 sensor with f2.45 aperture. And the second one gets an 8MP ultra-wide angle lens again with f2.45 aperture. I am so glad that this is a wide camera and not just a depth sensor like on some budget smartphones. With the rear camera, you can shoot 4K videos at 30fps, 1080p videos at 30 and 60fps, and 1080p slow motion videos at 240fps. The front-facing camera can however shoot 4K and 1080p videos at up to 60fps. I am just as puzzled as you guys that why does the front camera get a 4K 60fps mode and not the rear one. Hopefully OnePlus can figure out a way to include the 4K 60fps mode on the rear camera with a future software update. The camera interface is similar to what we saw on the OnePlus 8 and 8 Pro. If you want a detailed look at it, I suggest you guys check out my dedicated camera review of either of those phones. I will leave cards to them on the top right corner of the screen and also link them in the description section. Let me just quickly tell you the range of ISO and shutter speed for the Pro mode. ISO ranges from 100 to 3200 and the shutter speed ranges from 1/8000th of a second all the way up to 30 seconds. Now if you leave the ISO on auto in the Pro mode, it can go up to 6400, but while adjusting it manually, it can just go up to 3200. There is still this annoying shutter lag while you are taking pictures like we saw on the OnePlus 8 and the 8 Pro. And it gets even worse on this phone while you are clicking images in the 48MP mode. In some cases, there is a delay of close to 5 seconds before you can take another image. This is really annoying. If anyone from OnePlus is watching this video, please fix this soon. Before we head over to the image and video samples, if you are new to this channel, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon next to it. That way you won't miss out on any of the amazing videos coming up on this channel. Now some of you guys complained in the comments that I don't include video samples in my camera reviews, which is not true. I include 4K and 1080p videos in all camera reviews, and I really don't know how they can miss it. Anyways, this time let me include the video samples at the first and then we will move on to the images. 4K 30fps videos look good from the OnePlus Nord. They are stabilized via EIS, so they are extremely smooth. Even though there is optical image stabilization on the primary camera, these videos are not optically stabilized. I have tried every resolution and frame rate option, and all these videos are just stabilized electronically. Videos turned out good in these diffuse lighting conditions as well, but you definitely see some noise since the lighting is not perfect. In bright lighting conditions like this, videos look so much better. There is less noise overall and the colors also look very good. I don't know if you guys noticed it or not, but there are a few frame drops here and there while shooting videos on the OnePlus Nord. You can take 4K videos with a wide lens as well. And for some reason, videos from this wide lens are sharper and better than the photos from it. 1080p videos are a bit softer, but they are still usable, and the stabilization is again doing an excellent job. For slow motion, the resolution and frame rate are locked at 1080p and 240fps. There are no other frame rate and resolution options while shooting slow motion videos. As you can see, the video is very smooth, but since these are diffuse lighting conditions, you can see plenty of noise in the video. Make sure to shoot your slow motion videos in bright light so you can avoid this unwanted noise in your footage. Now let us take a look at the images, starting with the daytime shots. It is monsoon season where I live, so most of the images are going to be in overcast lighting conditions. I was lucky to be able to take a few of these shots when the sky was relatively clear of clouds. As you can see, there are plenty of details in these daytime shots. Everything appears to be sharp, but I think there is a bit more contrast in these images. This extra contrast gives these images a bit more depth. Some of you might like this extra contrast in your images, while others might not. It is a matter of personal preference. Now even if I zoom in on these images, you can see they are holding on to their details. Sometimes there is a bit too much noise in the bright sky. You can see it in this image as I zoom in. Other than that, all these daytime images in bright light are looking really good. Even in overcast conditions, we see the main camera capturing lot of details. In these situations, some phones just end up capturing no details at all, but the Nord is doing a pretty good job of keeping the details intact. Keep in mind that even though it's a OnePlus smartphone, it is a sub 25,000 rupees phone and we should judge the cameras according to that. As you can see, Nord is doing a good job in these indoor daylight conditions as well. In some of the shots, it tends to overexpose, so you might have to pull the brightness slider down manually in those cases for the images to look good. Like on the OnePlus 8 and 8 Pro, Nord also gets the ultra short HDR option and I have kept it on for all of my shots. And as you can see, it does a good job when the phone needs to capture higher dynamic range. Now while taking HDR shots, you might not always see the results that you are going to get. In the viewfinder, brighter areas might look too bright or the shadows might appear too dark. But the HDR effect is applied after you have clicked the image, and when you go to the gallery, after a second or so, you get to see how good the image turned out. When I took this shot, the background was completely blown out in the viewfinder, but after clicking the picture, ISP applied the HDR effect and brought back most of the details from the sky while bringing up a lot of details from the shadows at the same time. The resulting images look very good, but you don't know that while you are clicking the image, kind of like what Pixel did with the portrait mode shots. Checking every shot after you take it can be a bit frustrating, especially when you are out on a vacation with your friends and family and you need to take a lot of images back to back. I guess this has to do something with the less powerful processor. Hopefully OnePlus is working on making it a bit faster with a software update. I really like the colors coming out of this camera for the most part. Sometimes they are a bit muted, but I think we can blame that on the weather and not on the camera's capabilities to reproduce good looking colors. Sometimes due to the higher contrast, colors might appear a bit saturated than the actual scene. But I think these kind of images look very attractive when you share them on social media. If you want to get most natural looking colors, shoot raw images in the Pro mode and then edit them to make the colors look exactly how you want. These have all been 12 megapixel pixel bin images from the primary camera. You have the option to take 48 megapixel images as well, and here are how 12 and 48 megapixel images look when stacked next to each other. From this far, you cannot differentiate between them. You will have to zoom in 3 to 4 times to see that the 48 megapixel images have slightly more details. High resolution images are also 3 to 4 times larger in terms of file size, so if you shoot all of your images at this resolution, your phone's internal storage will fill up pretty fast. If you click 48 megapixel images in overcast, dim or low lighting conditions, you will barely see any details in these shots. While shooting at this resolution, size of each individual pixel is very small, so each pixel captures very little light. This is not an issue in bright sunny light, but in less than ideal lighting conditions, here are how the 48 megapixel images ended up looking. So for most of your shots, it is best to stick with the default 12 megapixel mode. Here's a quick focusing speed test before we move on to the close-up and macro shots. Main camera is pretty quick at switching the focus from a near to far object and then back again. The shift in focus is smooth in some cases, while in others, it suddenly changes the focus. It doesn't matter while taking images, but smoother shift in focus looks very good while taking videos. Fast and accurate focusing is important while taking close-up shots like this. Now both the OnePlus 8 and 8 Pro gave me some problems with focusing while taking close-up shots, but I did not have any such issues with the OnePlus Nord. I just fired up the camera, walked up to the subject and took these good looking close-up shots. The subject closest to the camera or the one that you tap on is in perfect sharp focus, and thanks to a larger sensor and a wider aperture, background in these close-up shots gets a very nice and smooth optical blur. If you want to get even closer to your subject, there are two options. you can either switch to the 2 megapixel dedicated macro camera, which lets you set the focus even if you get this close to your subject. But the quality of these images is abysmal. You can get much better shots by using 2 or 3x digital zoom on your main camera. Here are macro shots compared side by side with the 3x digitally zoomed shots from the main camera. If you want to take macro shots on this phone, please do this instead of using the macro lens. OnePlus should have ditched the macro and the depth sensor on this phone and put that money towards a better wide camera which could also double as a macro camera like the one on the OnePlus 7T. That would have given us much better results. Speaking of the wide camera, here are how the images from it look against the images from the main camera. Wide lens lets you get so much more of the scene in the shot. It is not as good as the main camera in terms of details and dynamic range, but it lets you capture a completely different perspective of the scene from the same exact spot. Overall image is very soft from the wide lens, especially in overcast or dim lighting conditions like this. It is because the sensor behind this lens is of lower resolution and the lens elements are also not of a very good quality. All that being said, this image quality is still accepted and much better than the useless 2 megapixel macro lens. You also get a 2x button on the viewfinder, but the Nord doesn't get a telephoto lens, so when you tap on the 2x button, it just digitally zooms in on the image from the main sensor. Most of the times, these digitally zoomed in images turned out pretty good. Coming to the portrait mode. Other than missing on some strands of hair, edge detection is on point and the phone does very well to separate your subject from the background. The ultra short HDR helps while taking portrait shots as well. Most of the times, it does a very good job of keeping the highlights in check, like with the background in this shot. But sometimes, it completely messes up the shadows in the shot. There were shadows on the face while taking this shot, so the HDR mode just brought up all the shadows and made the overall image look unnaturally processed. While no one talked about this, I showed the same thing in the portraits from the OnePlus 8 and 8 Pro as well. I really hope OnePlus is working on fixing this. Now in other situations, when the scene is evenly lit, I really like the portrait shots from the OnePlus Nord. Faces are sharp and in focus, colors are looking good, and the blur to the background is also very natural. I just found that the OnePlus Nord takes more time than any other phone to detect the edges for taking portrait shots. The depth effect overlay on the viewfinder of this phone takes longer to turn green while taking portraits. Again, this might be because of the processor on this phone. This is not an issue, but you just need to have a bit more patience while taking images with this phone. You will find the same thing with the portraits of objects. While it is accurately detecting the edges of objects for the most part, it takes a couple of more seconds than the other phones. Other than that, the portrait shots turned out to be amazing. Again, you can see that the ultra short HDR is trying to bring up too many shadows from the black box. While the image still looks processed, it is not such a big issue while taking portraits of things. It just looks weird when there are people in the shot. Again, there is a bit more contrast in these portrait shots, but to my eyes, overall portrait shots are looking pretty good. Let us now move on to the images shot in indoors, artificial and lower lighting situations. Main camera on the Nord has a wide aperture, and that combined with the optical image stabilization lets the sensor capture more light for a longer time. This means the low light performance of this camera is also pretty good. You can see it captures a lot of details in these lighting conditions as well. But if this is not enough for you, or if you want to click images in even lower light, there is a night sight mode on this phone. Like on any other phone, this mode lets the sensor capture light for a longer time and then apply some computational photography magic to give you brighter and much more detailed images. Look at how much more light the night sight mode image managed to capture. This mode doesn't only bring up the dark shadows, but it also manages the exposure in the brighter parts of the image in a better way. Night sight mode also does wonders while shooting indoors. There was barely any light around while taking this image, but just look at how much more light the night sight mode managed to add in this image. This mode does not only bring up the ISO to make the images look brighter, it also reduces the noise in the overall image and makes it look so much cleaner and sharper. You might know this, but the night sight mode takes a couple of seconds to capture the image, so if you have people in your shot, ask them to be completely still for at least 2 to 3 seconds, because any movement results in a blurry looking shot. Sometimes, OnePlus Nord keeps on capturing more light after you have clicked the shutter button even in the auto mode, and it makes the images look so much better even in lower light. In those cases, you won't even have to switch to the night mode to get a better image. That brings us to the front-facing cameras. OnePlus finally packs in a 32 megapixel selfie camera on one of their phones. While 32 megapixel sounds a lot and the images look sharp, I still think the detail levels are not as good as you would expect from a high resolution sensor. Don't get me wrong, these selfies still look really good. The secondary camera at the front lets you take wide-angle selfies like this. Its images are a bit softer, but the advantage is it lets you capture a much wider field of view. So when this pandemic is behind us, you can meet your friends and get all of them in a single selfie. Colors look good while taking normal selfies, but this camera tends to overexpose most of your shots, making the selfies look a bit faded. Even without a dedicated depth sensor, edge detection is very accurate while taking portrait selfies. Overall colors and skin tones also look pretty good in these selfies. Since the background is blurred out, we get an illusion that the faces are sharper in the portrait selfies compared to the normal ones. Here's a video from the main front-facing camera on the OnePlus Nord. You can see how it handles the overall colors of the scene, exposure, and stabilization when I'm walking around with it. This phone does get a secondary wide lens at the front, but you cannot switch between these lenses while you are shooting videos. This is a video from the wide front-facing camera of the OnePlus Nord. You can see how it handles the overall colors of the scene, exposure, and stabilization when I'm walking around with this phone. So with that, we have seen close to 80 image and video samples from the OnePlus Nord. Other than the very poor macro camera, I feel the Nord has a pretty good set of cameras overall. Now the cameras are obviously not as good as the flagship smartphones, but looking at these images on a smartphone, you won't find a lot to complain about. Now, I have not compared these images with any other smartphones yet, so I can't say how its performance is compared to them. But on its own, at a starting price of 25,000 rupees, I think these cameras are doing a pretty good job. We have seen this same sensor on the OnePlus 7T, and it just wasn't giving us the best results. Then we saw it on the OnePlus 8, and thanks to the better ISP, results were substantially better. Again, I haven't compared these images with the OnePlus 7T or the OnePlus 8, but I have a feeling that these are better than the ones from the OnePlus 7T, but not as good as the ones from the OnePlus 8. The ISP on the Snapdragon 765 processor seems to be doing a pretty good job. It is just a bit slower in processing, but the resulting images seem to be pretty good. The video performance is pretty decent. There are a few frame drops while shooting 4K videos, but other than that, I see no problem with the cameras on this phone. So it seems OnePlus did not mess up the camera on the Nord. Again, we should keep in mind that this is a 25,000 to 30,000 rupees smartphone and judge the cameras accordingly. Well, you guys saw the images too, so what do you think about the cameras on the OnePlus Nord? Let me know in the comments. Very soon, I will compare these cameras with a few other smartphones, so make sure you have the notifications turned on. And if you guys want to see a Gcam video about this phone, tell that to me in the comments as well. If you like these images and you want to purchase the OnePlus Nord, I will really appreciate if you get it from the affiliate links in the description section. That is it for this video guys. Please hit the like button if this video helped you and subscribe to the channel for more quality tech videos like this. You can also check out some of the other videos from this channel. This has been Sagar and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Take care.